Lands are a vital world away, to which frequent visits provide much-needed emotional and cultural well-being.
My skin and my identity within my knowledge is based upon the land, and they can't take it out. It's like a root in the land.
These kids run around booty butt cheek naked. It ain't no problem.
That this land holds. That's the secret that we are fully rich with. It's the richness that no one can take away from us. It's not only knowing that you're on the land, but knowing that the land owns you.
That is our library, that is our university. All that story is back there, back home. It can be only given through the knowledge of our ancestors that actually take us to the land and show where everything is.
It's a worm called mangrove worms. Yeah, we call it like skin. It makes me now we want to eat it now instead of telling stories. My stomach rumbling for it. It's related to me. It's my mother. My mother liked him. When you eat this, it's like a bacon. It's not like this.
I like being in the bush. Anytime it's too much noise. Some even push for honey. It's yummy.
So when we see these clouds, like that's the part we find it. You chop the tree, then you chop the edges, and inside the trunk, that's where the honey is.
Oh my God, pure honey. Oh my God, that looks so good.
The homelands are more secure because people are in the family, which they're not so vulnerable. They're on place who have authority. On the townships, it's foreign land that cannot nourish themselves on the country. So they take their nourishment from these other things, from the movies, from the petrol stick and the marijuana, the other drugs that are around.
In 2009, there remains a significant difference in the lifestyle and expectations of people living in urban areas and people living in remote areas. This has to change.
In May 2009, the Northern Territory Government announced its Working Future policy. It deems an estimated 10,000 Aboriginal people living on their traditional homelands to be economically unviable. The policy will freeze funding for services to homelands and gradually force everyone into 20 designated growth towns. The government ignored its own consultations with Aboriginal communities, which had demonstrated overwhelming support for the homelands.
The anger is palpable over the Northern Territory Government's Homelands and Outstations policy.
It's not applicable for homelands, and it's not what we need.
Anger spilled over in Ireland today about the Territory Government's plans to create 20 remote community hubs and freeze funding for hundreds of homelands. At Northbrook, copies of the policy were burned.
This can't be happening. It just comes in different forms. It's the same wave that comes in different forms.
Homelands are of fundamental importance to the survival of our culture. This is very serious.
That's the most important aspect of our life. We are connected to our land. But the government doesn't seem to recognize that. They don't understand our system. The government says that there's going to be limited funding for smaller homelands, people are going to be forced off their land. People are going to be starved off their land.
Right now in one area, like like Matamata, like Umari. But everything there, but that's why they have to protect the Balada people. By because that land like real.
His land is his flesh. His ancestors going back thousands and thousands of years have been in that land. And if he's pulled away from that, it's like ripping out a part of your mind.
In the same week the government announced its homelands policy, the Medical Journal of Australia published a paper showing that Aboriginal people's health is much improved by living and working on homelands.
Working as a general practitioner in a remote community where I serve both outstations and large centralised community, it's plainly obvious to me, seeing what comes through the door, that homelands deliver lots of advantages in terms of health and a healthier lifestyle, where exercise is easier,
I caught
diet's
fish.
better, and people certainly less stressed.
It's impossible for many of the people that I know to have a future in the central townships, in the centralised towns that have really been created by government for bureaucratic convenience, not for the convenience of the people who live out there, for the old lot.
In 5 years, I want to see private sector investment underway in each of these towns, including private housing, boarding school facilities where appropriate, and the gap closing tangibly on education and health.
In its efforts to improve the lives of Aboriginal people, the government has taken away the very thing that has shown to improve Aboriginal health, the capacity to live on country, whilst promoting the centralising of Aboriginal people into larger townships, already crippled by social dysfunction, poor health and overcrowding.
It's highly disrespectful for government to continue to tell people, this is how you will do things, this is where you will live, this is how we will administer you. People have no future, no positive future, when they're continually directed and pushed from pillar to post and around by government policies. Why? People.
Like a nanny goat on a leash in a yard. This is our future, living in a yard, like goats, bullocks, and pigs.
I'm not going to go until the Prime Minister to be over. It's that ridiculous. That's how ridiculous this matter is. For outsiders to come into invade our community, invade our families, invade our land, and tell us how we should live, tell us how we should spend our money, tell us how we educate our children, tell us how we should look after our children. You just can't do that. Because you won't let me do that to your family.
That's right.
They got rid of the
Damn
community
right.
council and put a white man there so he can control the Aboriginal communities. Camps and outstations, just like the old days, mission managers. I've got grandfathers and great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers still alive. They've lived this life before. It's still repeating, history repeating over and over again. No, we don't want to live this life, because our grandfathers have lived this life. I'm sure you wouldn't want to live this life.
The belief that the Aborigines were racially inferior and not able to participate in modern society led to the adoption of paternalistic policies in almost all of Australia in the 20th century.
What can I really do? Sometimes I think it's protect you.
The Aborigines did not have any rights as citizens. They could be placed on reserves where their lives were dominated by white officials and where, in many, many cases, the children were taken away.
One of the most well-known acts of assimilation by the government was the forced removal of Aboriginal children from their families, now known as the Stolen Generation. Right up until the 1960s, more than 100,000 children were taken away to be indoctrinated into white society.
When the missionaries came and we were put into an institution, now there were things happening there which was not acceptable at all. You wasn't happy. The happiness came from not being beaten up. By doing what you told to do. And when the lens got over, it was a piece of me that poured out of school, just like after landfill. There was a slow deterioration of the old way of life from the years and years and years of that new learning of how to fit into this society. And discouraging you to remember yours, where you come from, and your people and their way of life.
Originally, I guess the assimilation policy was a way of just rooting out Aboriginal people, this idea that white people were superior and that the best pathway for Aboriginal people was to be more like white people.
Assimilation is the object of native welfare measures. This means, in practical terms, that in the course of time it is expected that all those persons of Aboriginal blood or mixed blood will live like white Australians do.
So assimilation, which was a conscious policy right up until the 1960s, is still implicit in much of what Australian governments do. Anyone who has studied policy towards Aborigines will recognise there many of the same attitudes and policies.
We're trying to do some good things.
In February 2008, the newly elected government of Kevin Rudd apologised for past injustices towards Aboriginal people.
We apologise for the hurt, the pain and suffering we, the Parliament, have caused you by the laws that previous Parliaments have enacted. We apologise for the indignity, the degradation and the humiliation these laws embody. We offer this apology to the mothers, the fathers, the brothers, the sisters, the families and the communities whose lives were ripped apart by the actions of successive governments under successive parliaments. So let us turn this page together, Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians, and write this new chapter in our nation's story together.
Congratulations to you, Mr. Rudd. You made it very clear that you are the leader. Our question today.
Better put our question today.
Why is the intervention still going on?
Why is the intervention still going on?
It's a difficult decision. It's a controversial decision. I don't back away from it. It's the right thing to do.
One of the government's main arguments for maintaining the intervention has been to provide much-needed housing in Aboriginal communities.
The health implications of the severe overcrowding that exists, of course, worst in the remote parts of Australia, really make it imperative that we look at this housing question.
To my left is the housing for government teachers, and on my right the government employs